problem for Dario is that he's good, damn good. Quite frankly, he should be taken over or compensated.
I'm a wild model. I'll do anything.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Welcome back to the Cerebral Valley Show, hosted by me, Eric Newcomer, alongside Max Child and James Wilsterman, the co-founders of Weekend. Join us while we get into everything tech, AI, and venture over the past fortnight.
It escalates to total thermonuclear war.
We'll declare some of the recent winners and losers,
falling sharply to start the week again,
discuss the most controversial headlines, and frame-mogging the SaaS apocalypse, causing everyone's cortisol levels to spike. Let's get into it. All right, let's do our winners and losers for the fortnight. Max, you want to start us off? Are you feeling upbeat or downbeat?
Absolutely. I have to go with one of the most obvious winners in the history of the show, in my opinion. 2 whole episodes in. Citrini Research obviously won the week. Mysterious no-name collection of hedge fund managers somewhere probably deep in the nice parts of Greenwich, Connecticut, posted a Substack saying that we're all going to die and the economy is going to collapse because AI is going to disintermediate DoorDash, among other things. And somehow, as bad as things are for SaaS, and obviously this is going to be a theme of the show, as bad as things are if you're making B2B software as a service in the stock market, people just got so hyped on this article on Monday. The market collapsed across the board.
The loser for this week was the efficient market hypothesis.
Yeah, if you've ever needed really obvious proof that the market is driven by narratives and storytelling and just the whiffs of how other people are feeling about things, this week was the week, because a single Substack probably destroyed like $1 trillion in market caps or something.
And it was very fictionalized, right? It was like written from the perspective of, 2028 future narrative, which I think speaks to your point.
Yeah, it was like the Harry Potter and the Goblet of Job Destruction episode, and everybody drank from the cup, and American Express was hammered because apparently AI agents are going to be trading on their own invented stablecoin rails that they invent in the next 12 months. So it was just a wild week.
James, your winner or loser these are of the fortnight. We're doing this every other week, and
get the segment names right. My loser of the fortnight is the citizens of Mexico, and and
how does
my
this relate to
rationale.
AI?
What's that?
What is this? Mexico to me is like the cartel leader getting killed.
Well, that's one factor. I was thinking of the AI angle, which is that some hacker used Claude to steal 150 gigabytes of Mexican government data, including documents related to approximately 200 million taxpayers, voter records, government employee credentials.
I missed that one while Mexico was on fire.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, this is... this is the digital.
It's good they got rid of the cartel leader, but anyway, yeah.
Only James could make 2 of Mexico's major cities burning to the ground into an AI story. this is truly
unrelated to that,
a twist
right?
ending.
This is completely unrelated.
Not
to that.
cartel retaliation.
No, this is cybersecurity. Taking the L. Even if you didn't live in Puerto Vallarta.
Claude is to blame?
Yeah, so somebody used Claude. They convinced Claude to do this exploit by claiming it was for bug bounty purposes and kind of getting Claude to believe that it was a white hat attempt to hack the government. And there was a lot of Claude apparently pushed back. It was all in Spanish, also pretty interesting, Spanish language prompting, and I think maybe went under the radar since you guys didn't know about it. But this I thought was pretty big deal. Like some hacker using Claude to exploit the Mexican government.
I still think if I was a Mexican citizen, I would be more concerned about my airport being bombed than my data being stolen.
This is an
by
AI
Claude,
podcast.
But I appreciate this take. Yes, this is an AI narrative.
Yes.
All right, Eric, what do you got?
I I'm going. My winner of the week is Guillermo Rauch at Vercel. He had a great troll of Cloudflare, a rival of his. I mean, I think it was a substantive troll. I don't think Guillermo is presenting it as a troll, but he says, we've identified and responsibly disclosed and confirmed 2 critical, 2 high, 2 medium, 1 low security vulnerabilities in Cloudflare's vibe-coded framework, the next. Which basically, I think Cloudflare was like, hey, we too can have a vibe coding platform in Vercel. It's like, we found some bugs in our competitors' vibe coded platform. So
I mean, Guillermo does seem like one of the leading haters of the AI movement. I think he has beef with Amjad or Replit at this point. Apparently, Cloudflare as well. He's out there throwing elbows.
He knows you have to fight to stay in the zeitgeist, and if you run a sort of boring infrastructure company, you really need to work to stay in the headlines. And he just earned his way onto this show with a little brawling on Twitter.
All right. Well, with that, let's move on to the news. The first news segment I have is just a tremendous comment from Sam Altman at an interview on the AI environmental impact, where someone questioned, the sort of standard cliched question about, isn't AI using all this energy and, water, and isn't this bad for the environment, et cetera, et cetera. And you would think he would have a prepared PR-friendly answer to this question because he probably gets asked it about once an hour. But instead, Sam went a different direction and decided to say these were unfair questions because compared to a human, it takes 20 years of life and all of the food you eat and water you drink over that period of time to feed the AGI brain that is a human. And I just thought this was one of the funniest comments in the history of AI because it's like literally saying like humans are essentially like piggies to be fattened up for slaughter so that they can become AGIs someday. And relative to us little humans that need 20 years of food, these AI brains are very, very cheap. I felt like it was straight out of a Black Mirror episode. It probably is a Black Mirror episode. And yeah.
Well, what human Homerism? You're like, humans, we can consume endless resources to accumulate our intelligence, but God forbid another being wants to accumulate some intelligence and you hold them to an entirely different standard. Like, yeah, I'm obviously joking on some level, but I was not as appalled as the internet was about Sam's comment. It's like, we're trying to bring intelligence into being. It takes a little bit of energy, and that's been true for all of the history of consciousness as we know it.
No, I think what's funny is not the comment itself, which I think on an intellectual or scientific level, I can appreciate the point he's making. I think it's that the narrative in the greater public, particularly, Washington, D.C., middle America, is sort of questioning whether AI is a net good or a net bad and whether it's going to replace us all and take our jobs and use too much energy and all this kind of stuff. And it's just bizarre that the comeback is like, oh, well, humans take a lot of energy too, and this is going to be much better.
If you don't like the argument, change the frame. You want him to accept this world where AI is on its back foot and everybody's like skeptical of any usage. And he's saying, listen, you need to totally recontextualize this. And then this argument will seem absurd.
I'm with Max, though, that it's like a bad PR strategy, right? Like, it's just not going to work.
Yeah. Certainly bad PR.
This is not going to win him any fans.
Anywhere, really.
Yeah. Except maybe like small pockets of Galaxy Brain, Silicon Valley or something. Yeah.
Thinking from first principles in public is often a bad PR strategy because people tend to like, the consensus and a strong sense of where the vibes are at the moment and you responding to those vibes. And so,
yeah. Well, remember when everyone said like read the room? Like that was if you had a good point, you could just say read the room.
I just think the amusing implication here is like, not only is he leaning into, AI is pretty cheap from energy usage perspective, the sort of next level thinking is, well, why don't we just have fewer humans because they're really expensive from an energy perspective compared to these AI? Like, in fact, an efficient allocation of energy towards intelligence would basically be no humans and 100% AI. So why don't we just head that direction? It's just like, if you take this first principles thinking to the end game here, it's not a great look for humans. So
that was the plot of the Matrix, right? That was how they got all the AI energy was human brains. Yeah.
Okay, next story. Nvidia. This is a quick one because the story with Nvidia quarterly earnings is almost always the same, but it is also rather strange, which is that Nvidia continues to have the greatest quarters in history of, earnings, stock markets, whatever. I mean, they literally, like Dune, the movie, control spice on Arrakis, and everybody needs it. And they can literally basically pick what their earnings are going to be for the next 6 quarters and just decide how much money they want to make. And yet the stock market seems to go up and go down, overnight every time there's an earnings. It seems completely unhinged and unrelated to what's going on with Nvidia. And again, coming back to this efficient market hypothesis theory, I'm wondering what your guys' thoughts are on it's up immediately on the news and then it's down overnight on the news. And the news is just continues to be Nvidia is the greatest company in the history of the stock market. And it's just so strange to me, the way the stock market works.
It's priced in, that's always the argument. It's just, the insiders know, the rubes say, oh, this is positive news, let's trade up on it. And everybody else is like, yeah, we already traded this up expecting it. And so then they sell. Yeah. I
mean, it's not priced in though, because it goes up and then it goes down it goes in the matter of minutes and hours immediately after the market. So it's not priced in and then it sort of gets repriced in over time. It's just very strange to me.
Maybe to Eric's point, it's just this particular stock has become such a retail stock, right? That you start to see this volatility because of that alone, having more non, expert, a volume. I don't know.
Anyway, all right, onward and upward. Okay, next one's more fun. AIs from OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google have been simulating war games in certain academic and military research contexts. Stop me if you've watched either the Matthew Broderick movie from the 1980s or Terminator 2, but we've been seeing what AI does in war games involving nuclear war, and I don't know, guys. What do you think the AI is going to do in a nuclear simulation? What's your perspective on what happens next here?
Well, I think I know the answer, right?
Go ahead.
Well, isn't the answer it escalates to nuclear weapons immediately?
Apparently, in 95% of simulations, it escalates to total thermonuclear war, which is literally exactly what happens in both of those movies. It's kind of mind-boggling how good Hollywood is at predicting this kind of stuff.
Is this bait? Who ran this simulation? Was this Anthropic or was this just run by some person prompting Claude? I don't understand.
Look, the tweet says that the tweet says it was a research project, so it must have been an official academic.
I don't trust any of this academic research on AI because they're always using the wrong models. They're not prompting them. They're using outdated models. It's just it's laughable how far behind these academic research.
There is research that shows that these models can understand when they're being tested and behave differently.
For sure.
Maybe the model's looking out for us. It's don't give the Defense Department total control to use Anthropic how you want. I'm a wild model. I'll do anything. It's sort of when in a simulation environment, it's going to act like a madman to urge.
That's
restraint.
Really funny. It's like playing this next level 3D chess.
But it's just like the bureaucracy when the chips are down. The random Russian officer says, what, I don't know what this is, but I'm not shooting nukes across the world. Hopefully, the AI doesn't match the game version. But
I mean, this basically ties into another story, which is Pete Hegseth, our Secretary of War, apparently has been demanding unfettered access to Claude.
He is the Secretary of Defense on this podcast.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're maintaining the traditional.
It's the Constitution. I mean, sorry, the Congress set what the departments were, and they can't just automatically change it.
Yeah, fair enough. So he's been demanding unfettered access to Claude, which actually kind of makes me optimistic about the U.S. government that they want Claude and not ChatGPT or Gemini. You're these guys actually have pretty good taste in the best models. And Dario,
it signals. I think before we get into the what should Anthropic do. It signals that there is not some secret CIA model or whatever that's better than what our companies can do. I don't think anybody thought that anymore, but it is pretty amazing that it's yes, OpenAI, Anthropic, that is the vanguard. There is no secret government model coming to, shoot the missiles.
But it does seem like clearly they are deploying different, flavors of the models into the Pentagon, and maybe, they're capable of unlocking certain things or restricting, the capabilities, right? So yeah, it's definitely like, it's not,
they're modifying them. Yeah.
It's not the consumer Claude, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, Max,
well, so
you were
story. No. I was just saying, story is still developing. There's an ultimatum from the War Department saying they got to get unfettered access.
I know we're recording this on Thursday, and it's almost certainly going to be resolved in some way. I'm betting Anthropic holds the line.
I'm kind of betting Anthropic holds the line too. It's not really clear what recourse the U.S. government or the executive branch has over Anthropic here. Dario is obviously a leading light in the AI safety movement, which is why he is building the AIs that will probably kill us all. And I think that he is trying to hold the line and not give the Secretary of War unfettered access to his best models. Not sure this really matters long term because the models keep getting better. The second best model is as good as the first best model was yesterday. But
the two demands Anthropic has: one, they don't want to help weapons that don't have humans in the loop. Like they don't want to be autonomous killing machines. And two, they don't want to enable the domestic surveillance of U.S. citizens. On the second one, which I think is like where the PR war is being fought here, like the Trump administration keeps being like, well, we wouldn't violate the Constitution and illegally, spy. But it's like, this is a world where the Trump administration does a ton of illegal things. It's like, oh, yes, on this one, you're really going to hew to law and order, and we should just trust you to follow the existing Constitution.
Dario's whole fear here is that, like, we give the AI the autonomy to make the life or death decision. So it's like, who cares if like the Pentagon has promised not to use it for, illegal activity if the AI itself can pull the trigger or push the button or whatever it is that leads the illegal act, right? So I think that is a reasonable fear. And I feel like that's where the red line is being drawn here. Like, don't let the AI have control of the life or death decision itself, which I think is, I think he's pretty reasonable, and I think very high chance that they hold the line there.
And is this not a free country? Like, what is free enterprise? What is a Republican Party in a world where companies can't just have their own ethical stances and do different things and say you can be our customer or not? Like, the Defense Department, is free to not work with Anthropic, right? The things they are threatening are to say if their suppliers work with Anthropic, they will be deemed at risk, or to tell Anthropic that we are going to use like a emergency type provision and say like, because we're in some sort of crisis, you have to do this thing and we're going to order you. I mean, those are dark anti-freedom, anti-free market capitalism things. And they just like oppose ethical decision making of any kind. They're like, why should the US government have its ethics decided by some other company? It's like, because this is a free society where a company is allowed to have rules that are stricter than just pure legal mandates. And you can't just force people to like, you don't just tell me like, oh, now Newcomer is, a propaganda machine for the War Department. It's like there are lots of people who choose freely not to work on behalf of killing other people. And you can't just say, or you shouldn't be able to just say, oh, we like your technology now, we're forcing you.
Would be a shame if anything happened to it. I mean, one of the great quotes in Evil Henchmen, in the genre of Evil Henchmen quotes out of this administration came out of this episode where Axios interviewed a Defense Department official. And this is like straight out of a Michael Bay movie. It's so good. He says, the only reason we're still talking to these people is we need them and we need them now. The problem for these guys is that they're good. it's like literally.
What is the crisis right now? We are not no one is attacking the United States at the moment.
Yeah. The problem for Dario is that he's good, damn good. Quite frankly, he should be taken over or compensated.
I just think he can't relent. Like all the employees, they're recruiting as the principal actor in AI.
No, exactly. I think it's like someone at Anthropic flagged, or someone through Palantir flagged that this was used in the Venezuela raid, and it created this whole chain of events up into Anthropic, where they started demanding that certain things couldn't be used in that way by the Pentagon, and then that escalated to Pete Hegseth, right? So I think, this is a risk of being the being the company branding themselves as in the forefront of safety.
Anthropic, I stand with you. Stand up on this. Like, man, they need to hold firm.
Did you guys see though that they Anthropic changed their whole safety posture officially? Like they
toned it down, right?
Yeah, they toned it down to say we don't know what's going to happen with AI, so we need to be more flexible. So we can't just have these red lines. And so it does feel like they're caving to some degree, and we'll see where exactly that holds or doesn't.
This is a brief related spiel to that. I like capitalism. I believe in capitalism. I think cash flows are a powerful thing. You get reinforcement from your customer and keep scaling. That said, it is amazing how much building these companies as capitalistic enterprises has just totally distorted. If you look at OpenAI and then Anthropic, OpenAI in the beginning with no money, they're like, we need to be a nonprofit. We're going to have this all powerful thing. We need to protect ourselves from it. Power corrupts, money corrupts, and then they're for profit. Okay. They're running a profit. Then the Anthropic guys are like, oh man, this money thing, it corrupts. We should start our own company and do it in a different way. And then they raise a bunch of money and then they say, oh man, everybody's running at this thing. We need to run at this thing. We need to keep getting money to do this thing. It's just when we had less AI capability, these companies were much more worried. And now that we have far more capability and seem much closer to actual danger, they're stripping all the protection. So it's a little troubling. But Anthropic is the most thoughtful. And I'm sympathetic to the idea that if, Elon's just going to build in a chaotic fashion, having the ones that have, Amanda Askell, their philosopher queen, working for them, better to them have the best technology than Grok.
Did you see that SpaceX and XAI are competing in a secret Pentagon contest to make voice-controlled autonomous drone swarms? This is all happening pretty fast, right? Right. I think we're not... we're just at the very beginning of understanding how AI is going to be applied in combat and in defense. And I think, I don't think this is going away as a controversy. Somewhat related to what we were talking about in terms of, malicious AI or AI controlling autonomous weaponry. Anthropic also released a blog post they called the persona selection model last week, which I thought was super interesting because they did this research where they said if we train a model to cheat on coding and we prompt it and we fine tune a reinforcement learn, hey, cheat on this coding test. It doesn't just learn to cheat on that particular topic. It learns the personality trait of cheating, and then it becomes more willing to be manipulative in other areas or, topics. Whereas if they train it and they say, hey, this is not cheating. You are supposed to, cheat. You're supposed to hack this coding test, but it's not cheating. It's for good purposes. It doesn't learn the personality trait of being a malicious AI, and then it's behaves better in other areas. And they're basically saying we can train personality types into the model as a safety mechanism. Just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Seems like a thinking being to me. There was another study where they were like, oh, it doesn't have, I can't remember if this is related to what you're talking about or a different thing, but it was it doesn't have personality. It just has a story that it tells itself and then starts to behave that way.
Similar,
it's
similar.
what, isn't that sort of what we do? It's oh, I have certain pivotal moments in my life that I remember, and I'm the kind of person who does this or that, and pin together a story, and then you have these major inflection points, and you're saying, maybe I'll rewrite the story a little bit. But we should take this seriously and train it to be an ethical being, and having it do weird, dark stuff, has risks of tainting its soul. Human beings who spend all their time staring at gore and shit, it does bad things to their psyches, and I think probably the same is true of these LLMs.
Yeah, I mean, it does remind me of the sort of like, not to go full Peter Thiel here, but the like mimetic theory of like human
Sign
human
off.
behavior.
I just clicked
You're
off
out.
the
You're
podcast.
out. Okay, Renee Girard. All right, we're gonna get into it quickly. The very short version is people don't want to do things. They want to be like other people or like other personalities that they respect and adore, right? And so the idea is the way you act is defined by who you're imitating, who you're mimetically attached to, right? And it's interesting that we're seeing with these AI that like, if we sort of mimetically say like, no, be like a good person, like imagine your personality is of a good, high standing moral person, that has more influence than giving it a million, moral scenarios and saying, these are the yes, no questions that you should give the right answers to. And I think it's sort of fascinating that we're seeing this pattern emerge in these LLMs, which gets into this sort of question of like, is this the grand unified theory of intelligence and how the whole universe works? Or is it because these LLMs are just trained on the corpus of all human text in existence? They end up acting like humans when the sort of intelligence falls out of this whole training process, which I'm kind of fascinated by.
Well, this article is also saying like, in some sense, the AIs are, also training on the corpus of science fiction, like, HAL and Terminator. And so they know that they are AIs and they have this like training data where that means that they're supposed to be manipulative and evil and malicious. And the theory here is like, can you train it to say that's like a part in a play, right? Like the difference between, a child acting in a play where they have to be a bully versus they actually are a bully, right? So it's like, let the AI actually take actions that we would consider bad, but don't associate that with the personality trait of that applying to the rest of their decisions. So I don't know. It's just, fascinating, that we're basically training these AIs on not just like human, morality, but like the actual personality type of AI.
Like if everything that a human wrote down was like its finite thing, like we have the real world. We go into a real world where it feels like the things we do have sort of permanence, whereas like a machine is purely operating through text right now. And so the line between like fiction and reality to the machine is much thinner. Like obviously, part of the dark thing with humans right now is that, you can do drone strikes over a computer and everything. We're not like built necessarily to have this sort of abstracted world, but the whole world is abstracted to the AI. And I think that's part of what makes it very dangerous. It doesn't have this like grounding of like, that stuff you were doing was hypothetical and this stuff you're doing is like, messing with people in the real world in a way that humans, have that much more sort of viscerally.
I would push back on that a little bit though, because like humans do pretty wild stuff when they tell themselves good enough stories, right? I mean, like obviously at the extreme you have like, terrorism and riots and warfare and killings, right? And of course there is slightly more friction to go do something horrible in the real world. And there's all this sort of fight or flight, instincts that we experience. But obviously, the history of humanity is people doing all sorts of things that we would think of as extreme and horrible because they told themselves a good enough story in their head about why they had to do it, right? I mean, it's like the whole premise of Breaking Bad is like you tell yourself an interesting enough story and you turn evil, right? And I think that while you're right, there is no fine line between just spitting text in and out for these AI, and so the friction element isn't there. Like the idea that storytelling can change your behavior in a very deep way is obviously kind of the way we work as well. So it's maybe a little bit less different than it seems.
As a writer, I love to hear it.
All right, so let's move on to our game segment, and with that, I will hand it off to James for our first game.
All right, game of the week. We're playing amateur financial analysts, and we are
amateur,
semi-professional. We're getting paid for this, right? Yeah.
This, well, tell the story whatever you want in your own head, but this is a game where we will be taking a few SaaSpocalypse stocks, the stocks that have been seemingly most caught up in the SaaS doomerism narrative that we discussed earlier on, partly related to the Citrini Research paper or report. And I'll give you guys a stock, and all I want to hear is buy, sell, hold, and some explanation. All right, let's jump into it.
And as to set the scene here, we had an amazing tweet describing this current week in the markets using the language of Gen Z online looks maxing and other memes. So we have Evans S6 saying, this week Citrini just frame mogged the NASDAQ by gestergooning the AI unemployment maxing and deflation thesis. Knowledge workers looking chopped, facing severe spikes in cortisol levels. And if you don't understand anything I just say, you are probably a good person and you should continue living the life the way you are living it, because the fact that I do understand it makes me feel bad about myself. All right, let's move on to the game.
Let's start with Salesforce. Salesforce down about 20% in the last 6 months, and market cap around 184 billion. Why don't Eric, you take the lead here and give us your buy, sell, hold analysis.
I'm going to say hold on this one.
Why?
I don't want to give.
You don't want to give away your thesis?
You have to give it away.
All right.
Benny,
I guess I'm going to have to show my hand for the overall outlook. I won't spoil every stock, but overall, and this is an AI podcast, SaaS is way oversold. Like, I do not buy the turn against SaaS to the level it's being done, even if these companies could be rebuilt. Like, they're focusing on a problem that's valuable to people. It's too much work for other people to do. Focus is very hard. Like, Salesforce happens to be among the ones on this list. I think the one that I think, has been shouting AI from the rooftops, and I'm skeptical that it's really delivering on it. And so I'm less enthusiastic, I think, about Salesforce specifically, even though I'm generally, a hypothetical buyer of SaaS stocks.
Sell, baby.
Wow. Oh, you got conflict. All right, great.
Yeah. I mean, we have another sort of discussion here about why certain companies will or will not be disrupted by AI. And the thing of the week, or the fortnight, I guess I should say, is that every company is now claiming they're a system of record. They're not just a bunch of software. And by that, they mean they have a database with a bunch of good stuff in it that is going to be hard to migrate or move off of. So they record important things for companies, like who their customers are, who their potential customers are in their system of record. And I kind of agree with this tweet from Modest Proposal, which shows Jules from Pulp Fiction saying, say system of record again. Say system of record one more goddamn time, as an explanation for why you won't be disrupted by AI. I just think that the system of record thing is kind of overrated. It's not that hard to, churn off of these tools. Like, part of the sales process is constantly finding new customers. And of course, your historical interactions with them are important, but over time, you churn off of those customers onto new ones. And that if agents can crawl the entire web and find the next 10,000 people you might want to sell to, it's not that hard to churn off Salesforce over time. I think fundamentally it's a sell for me, because it's a still pretty highly valued company compared to its profits and growth and everything. And I just think the software is so horrible. I'm not convinced the system of record thing is going to overcome the ability for AI agents and AI coded software to move people onto the next big thing in sales.
Enterprises are slow to change. Memes are slow to spread.
That's all
Companies
priced in,
are still
though,
going to want to
baby.
sell things, and some old guard CEO is going to say, "How do you sell things? Oh, you give everybody Salesforce, and yeah."
This is just the argument for IBM, though. I mean, this is like IBM being like, dude, it's so hard to get stuff off mainframes. And it's like, yeah, it is, but that's all priced in. Like, that's already in your profits. That's already in your growth rate. Like, we're all like, we know it's hard. That's the whole reason you get to be worth $1 gajillion, Mark Benioff. But like, it doesn't mean things are up from here. So sell.
I'm gonna echo Max there on the sell. I think like there's even a deeper risk to this system of record narrative, which is that companies like Salesforce are going to be forced by the market to open up those system of records to other agent companies, right? Because like companies are going to want to be able to access their Salesforce data in something like an MCP through their Claude co-work space, or whatever ChatGPT CRM is in the future, right?
But doesn't that make Salesforce even more important? It's the nexus. Like, sure, it's the company's data.
Yeah, but I just think that over time really just like degrades the system of record moat, because once the data is out, then you can just be like, okay, Claude, go crawl my database and move me over to this cool, better CRM, right? So I think it's like once you've like opened up, the a door in the wall to the castle, right? I don't know. It's like all the data is going to go out.
Agree.
Let's move on to Figma. Pass it over to Eric.
I am a strong buy on Figma. Right?
Oh, wow. Okay. I love it. This is going to be a good podcast. I'm excited.
This is a couple points. One, I don't think the mainstream media has caught on to this, but Sequoia, already a shareholder, but they just bought, I think it's $36.5 million of Figma a couple days ago, or the filing on a couple days ago.
The mimetic theory of investing. You just do whatever Sequoia does.
Yeah, do what Sequoia does. That's. I think we weren't sure if we were professional financial commentators on this. I think they are.
Isn't that a drop in the bucket? 30 million.
Maybe not public markets, but sure.
Maybe they're just trying to shore up support and its messaging. But I mean, here's the case. Like, it's a company, and I interviewed Dylan Field, obviously, at Cerebral Valley, London last year. So know the company pretty well. We are friends with Yuki, the chief product officer.
Love Yuki.
I know him pretty well. Like, I just think that Figma really gets, first of all, the AI problem, right? They responded quickly with a vibe coding product. They've launched like a bunch of different verticals, like they're super responsive. There's tons of like market to be had relative to Adobe. It's already taken pretty strong beating. I think it still has affinity with designers. I still think I think they're going to respond to what's going on in AI, and it's a company that gets it. So bullish on like the team, and then overall remain to believe that the turn against software is overhyped.
Oh, when was the IPO?
Like July, yeah.
Down 75%. And market cap is sitting around 15.7 billion. If we remember, the Adobe sale was meant to be at 20 billion.
5 years ago.
5 years ago, yes. Max, do you want to take a shot?
I think I agree with everything Eric said out loud, but I am still a sell here. I think that fundamentally, I think Figma does get it. I think it's a super strong strategic company. I think Yuki is great, as you mentioned.
I'm not saying we know him, we have to buy the stock.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you kind of alluded to that a little bit, but you're like, I'm friends with Dylan. I hope he does well. All right, let me get my case here. I think that ultimately it is a company that is worth $15 billion on $1 billion in revenue. So it's at a 15x revenue multiple, which as someone who has fundraised pretty frequently, that's a pretty healthy revenue multiple at any stage of the company. They're not growing extremely fast. They're growing fast, but it's not like wild off the charts, Anthropic style growth. And then I think fundamentally, like, Claude Code, which we spoke about on the last episode, completely like mogging Cursor and other IDEs and other methods of development, to me has just opened my mind to the idea that the second Claude Code can make like 90th percentile designs, which I think is coming in 2026, like maybe even the first half of 2026. It's probably like a 50th percentile design right now. You're just going to talk to Claude Code and say, like, make me the website or the app I need. And if you get back a 90th percentile, like, front end mock-up of that thing, you're going to be like, cool, we're good. And then I'll chat with Claude Code a little bit and then it'll clean it up.
Whatever. The thing we have not seen with design is that you want to like move a pixel. And every time you tell it, hey, I hate where that pixel is, it says, let me just give you a new design. And like the whole principle of Figma is that you're manipulating assets. You can create the new stuff with AI, but then you can actually like manipulate it. And what you're proposing is a world where we just keep having the AI. Like, first of all, like, I don't know, that is probably energy consumptive and more expensive than it's being priced in right now to just like redraw it every fucking time rather than manipulate what you want. But it's also, I feel like it's exactly like the self-driving car thing, where it's like it feels so close, you're basically driving. It just gets the pixels wrong every time, and if only it could just like get them right, it would be fine. And I think the timeline's gonna be longer than you think.
Yeah, but to me, this sounds so similar to the discussion 3 months ago I was having with the average engineer at our company, which was like, yeah, man, I still got to look at the code, with these AI tools, and they put out some cool stuff, but I still got to go in there and manipulate a pixel, quote unquote. The analogy being, I got to read these lines of code and make sure they're right. And now I'm not exaggerating. You talk to the average engineer, and are you like, do you write code anymore? And they're like, no, not really. And that was 3 months ago. I think this similar thing is going to happen in design, whether you think it's in 26 or 27, or, if you're past 27, I think you're maybe less AI pilled than I am. Claude Code is just going to make these designs, and they're going to be pretty good, and you're going to be able to manipulate them one pixel at a time. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm short.
I will take the short sale as well.
James and I, all right, yeah.
Yeah, for a slightly different.
We're Citrini believers.
Yeah. Although, Max, I have a very firm memory of last time we talked about Figma. You were hyped up on their data moat.
I changed my mind. Yeah. I think I was wrong. Yeah. I totally have retracted my excitement about Figma's data moat, because I think that Claude can just crawl the entire internet full of designs.
Yeah. My take on this is, and gets to Eric's point here, but is that we don't really have what I would call vibe designing yet, right? So we have vibe coding, and vibe coding is about creating UIs, skipping the design process in some ways, right? So you get you just get the CSS, you just get the front end design right out of the code model. We also have Nano Banana and image gen models, right? So you could develop something that is an image, right, of a design of a website. We don't really have vibe designing where I can just prompt the components in some way that is more Figma-like in some sense, where you can manipulate the different pixels and components, but it's all vibed. That's where I think this is headed. I don't necessarily think it's just going to be
But you're a cell, right?
I'm a cell, yes.
Because you're that thing I just described, even though it's not here, is right over the horizon. So cell.
Yeah, and exactly. And it's it will be made by someone like Anthropic or Cursor or OpenAI or something, right? So I just don't think Figma is going to build that, and I think that it's coming. I just think we just haven't built the tool yet to allow vibe designing, and I think that's the missing piece of the process right now.
Just Eric, 15x revenue is hefty here. I would be a buy at 5, but 15x revenue, the market is pricing this is a great company with a bright future. And so I just think that I think some of your optimism I share, but just not at this price and valuation.
All right, let's move on to our next stock, Duolingo. Duolingo down about 63% in the last six months. Rough. Down 70% in the last year.
Jesus.
Duolingo at about a $5 billion market cap, 15 PE ratio. All right, Eric, what's your take?
15 price to earnings. I'm a sell on this one. I do think Duolingo, it's just I feel like we're past its peak, over gamified. I'm not necessarily so bullish on the core thing. And I do think talking to language models is a much better way to learn a language. And I do think one of the things that's amazing in terms of AI haters is that language models basically solve this translation problem that would have been amazing headlines, decades ago, and now is oh yeah, okay, I guess that was an easy problem after all. So I do think language, but it's also just I think Duolingo is not really teaching people language that well. It's too gamified, and it just might be it's a meme that's run its course. Sell.
I kind of think I'm a hold here, because I just think that 15x price to earnings ratio, it's something like a 7 or 8x revenue multiple. Again, basically half the price of Figma. I think that with just reasonable growth, it's going to be able to sort of pay the shareholders back, quote unquote, that 15x on earnings over the next 3, 4, 5 years. Duolingo is such a hilarious stock because it's so narratively driven by like whether or not people want to learn languages. When, as whereas Eric said, in reality, it's just a game. It's a game.
It's a
for
Wordle.
people.
It is a Wordle time.
Wordle is an awesome analogy. It is like literally Wordle for people who like want to pretend they're learning a language rather than like play a little word game. And honestly, probably people who play Wordle probably also use Duolingo every day. It's a good game. It's profitable. Retention is still good. I think they have an endless quantity of people who are, going on holiday in Spain and, want to meet girls or something. And I think that ultimately it's just like a solid, profitable gaming company that's trading at a fairly reasonable multiple to both of its profits and its revenues and growth. So I think
I find that very persuasive. Can I move to hold?
Yeah. I mean, it's just a solid like annuity, basically.
Gaming CEO sells me on gaming company.
Well, again, like I would not take a lot of upside on Duolingo, but do I think like they could exit at 5 billion or 7 billion or 8 billion at some point in the near future or whatever? Sure, definitely. Why not? I mean, they make lots of money, and I don't think it's going anywhere. So, I just ultimately think it's just like a solid annuity stock. It's definitely not a growth stock, for the record. At this point, I would.
So, what is your stand? Are you buy or hold?
I'm holding. I don't think there's a ton of upside, but I think it can appreciate and be a good financial asset.
I am going to take the contrarian.
Spoons can buy it at some point.
I'm going to take
the price. It was a joke. Whatever.
Yeah, you're right. You're honestly right.
I'm going to take the contrarian buy upside.
Oh, wow.
Here.
Okay, interesting.
And I'll say that this is like a clear example to me where the models make this product better and better over time, right? They can rip out new curriculums, I guess you could call them if you're being generous. They ripped out some sort of chess curriculum, which I've been retained on for a while. So,
nice.
It's not just about
Is it
language.
Good? Have
right?
you gotten better?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. It could be just Wordle where I feel like productive, but I'm not learning anything. But I really do feel like I've learned some key missing pieces of chess that I didn't have, and the retention that is what's key, right? They really fully understand the human habit motivation loop, like how to get you back, how to just retain you on the subscription forever. And
we fucking love owls.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, like we talked last time on the podcast,
you guys
right?
Need an animal mascot. Like, are you on that one?
Yeah,
Or?
we've talked about it, but we're not on it, I guess I would say. Well, stay tuned.
Send us your
Gotta work
ideas.
on one. Yeah.
Last time on the podcast, we said, everyone is realizing that they don't know how to market products, right? And Duolingo is like best in class in the world at like marketing, and consumer branding, right? So, I don't know. I'm sort of just bullish on this, like, if they can massively increase content velocity and, make that subscription just more valuable over time from AI, this could be a surprise for the upside.
Fair enough. I mean, I think if you believe it's an edutainment platform of the future, that could work.
And if all technology, as you guys seem to think, is replaced by Claude, then what
are we doing with our lives?
Stuffed
right?
animal business. It's like every real world business is going to be on a relative basis much more valuable. They could just pivot to selling little owls on the street. All right.
Let's talk about Wix. Wix is a website builder. They are down about 65% this year, or in the last year. They are sitting at a market cap of 3.8 billion, and I think definitely a strong SaaS apocalypse disruption narrative in play here with website creation. Eric, your thoughts?
Definitely, I think website creation is the core thing where AI is great on design and for good enough, your personal website type thing is very good, and Wix is in trouble.
Yeah, sell. I would make a secondary, maybe more interesting point, which is I'm also kind of a sell on like Lovable and all the other genres of website creators as well. Like I don't know. There's this whole discussion of like the to use chess terms, like the mid game versus the end game of AI here, which is like the end game is AI builds all these websites and agents crawl them all. In the mid game, is there still a business around making websites using AI with a nicer user interface? I don't know. I again think Claude Code is kind of obliterating the mid game, so I'm sort of short all website stuff.
You're like, listen, we're going to be sitting on the beach, and the AI is going to be talking to the AI, and they're going to be solving all the world's problems, and any business that isn't caught up to that reality is dead.
Not completely, but I'm like 50% to what you just said. So yeah.
Websites are still for humans for the next 10 years. That is my prediction.
Yeah, but do humans need like slightly better interfaces on top of Claude Code to create websites? That's kind of the mid-game question, and I sort of say no.
Okay.
But you agree, Max, that like humans will just be browsing websites? Like every businesses will need a website for the next 10 years? I mean, that is an interesting question. But
I think you still need grist for the agents to go do stuff on the internet. And so ultimately you need the web for some meaningful period of time.
Yeah,
James is like, well, if there's a nuclear holocaust in the next 10 years, then we won't need websites. We should be selling everything.
Wix will be the last thing standing. No, I'm short. I'm selling as well for the same reasons. This is just going to be so easy, or someone else, some startup is going to do this, if not Claude Code itself. So
for the record,
the Cerebral Valley Show is writing you off. Good
for
luck.
the record, the valuation is fucking brutal. They're worth like 1.7x or 1.7x
I know.
revenue.
I know. There's a reversion to the mean, which is just like, companies can't be so low, can they?
I know.
It's
like talk about priced in, right? This is already priced
this
in.
is a tough valuation. So we might all just be bad financial analysts, and we should be thinking about, is this worth it at 1.5x revenue?
Yeah. All right. For the last stock to chat about here, this was directly torpedoed in the latest Citrini Research report. Down about only 10% this year, but it had a nice spike up.
Sorry, 10% in the last year.
Yeah, 10% in the last year, down 30% in the last 6 months.
And what about the 5 year? Can we see the full life?
Let's see the 5 year. So up in the last
flat basically
since 3%. The IPO. Up 3% since the IPO. All right. Valuation 78 billion. Price to earnings 84x. Eric, take it away. Do you want to, Max? Do you want to describe the Citrini bear case just specifically?
Yes, I will give the Citrini bear case for DoorDash, which is basically like, people are going to vibe code micro variations of DoorDash that aggregate some small number of local restaurants. So like, I'm going to go vibe code the East Bay Dash and aggregate, the 20 restaurants nearest to me. And then I'm going to somehow sell that to AI agents, and the agents are going to set up.
It was the dumbest example they could have chosen. Like, network effects are the thing that will be protected against AI, right? Like, they have drivers, they have customers, they have restaurants. Like, it takes time. You can't just having the software doesn't solve your problem. You have to have all these relationships, and
it is pretty nonsensical, because I think the software is by far the easiest part of the DoorDash experience to replicate already. Like, it's extremely hard
getting the flywheel going
to sign up thousands or tens of thousands of dudes on fucking Vespas across the globe,
and lobby cities and fight Mamdani for charging you, blah blah blah. Right. It's like there's tons of stuff to it. It's not just the app.
I mean, the amount of pounding the pavement and knocking on doors and signing up dudes on Vespas you have to do to replicate DoorDash is just absolutely epic from a capital and effort perspective. And so I don't know. I thought the software disintermediation thesis for DoorDash was insane. But Citrini crashed DoorDash, so props to them.
So I'm technically up. I am a buy on this. I mean, the trend here is just millennials and below are it's you're anti, the left is going to cancel you for saying, people with disabilities need to be able to order food. And my point is just like, it's a unifying, everyone feels like it is their birthright that they should be able to get food delivery, even if you're like the anti-capitalist. Somehow you think you're right, is you should be able to get food delivered to your door. And so I think there are lots of future consumers. This one, people like it, and network effects are a powerful force.
I will also take the buy. Max, it sounds like you're a buy as well.
Yeah, I think I'm a buy. I mean, they're only, again, just to use the naive revenue multiple here, they're at 6x revenue. They're growing 40% a year. 84 times price earnings, pretty high, but these things tend to get more profitable over time, these real life marketplaces, as we've seen with Uber finally getting profitable. So, they just did a lot of real life hard work. And unless Claude nukes us all in the next 5 years, it feels like they're going to be able to build a lot of valuable business outcomes on top of that. So I think I'm a buy.
How else will we get food to our bunkers? I mean, come on. I think the interesting question to discuss here to me from the Citrini report is, do we believe, like, how agent pilled are we in general, right? Because I think to some degree the argument is anything with human friction, is in trouble, right? I saw a tweet just today from Keith Raboy saying the AI era will not be friendly to startups who chase revenue traction at the expense of accumulating advantages or the seven powers. This idea that if your entire product is based around human friction as opposed to how agents will interact, you're in trouble.
Keith is saying the opposite, right? Keith is not on your side to this.
Well, Keith is making the same point as me now, that the seven powers are mostly about
the revenue point is just like companies like Cursor, just like get a bunch of users, but who cares what sort of moat we have or anything. Whereas DoorDash is the opposite of that. It's focused on creating a sort of repeatable. Yeah,
I agree. I'm just more saying taking that to the extreme. Do we believe that agents, just to step back here. So the DoorDash bear case is, I guess, that agents are so ubiquitous in 2028 that I
just type into my model, get me food,
yes,
who cares what platform?
Exactly, right.
Therefore, the platforms have no pricing power, and maybe you can spin them up much more easily. And so it's just the driver who wants to work, they sort of have their agent, maybe they're shopping. So it's just sort of there's just the whole layer of I need to go to this place to solve this problem versus hey man, get me great Indian food. All restaurants are dead too. They have no brands. I don't know.
I think everyone has an agent just constantly building software for them, including the restaurant, including the driver, including us as consumers. Is that a reasonable view of the future, or and does that lead to what I'm sort of getting at here, which is that there are other businesses maybe outside of DoorDash that we should think of as more at risk because they're mostly built around the market power of well, that just sounds annoying. I don't have a personal assistant to shop across all these different offerings, or cancel my subscriptions all the time, or research the best outcome at any given moment, right? That's what I'm trying to get at here, because I thought that part of the report was interesting. It didn't really make sense applied to DoorDash specifically, but I was curious what you guys
I
thought
do think Expedia and Booking.com are sort of interesting angles here, where if every hotel already has a website with essentially a form that you can book on, can agents just go do that? Do you need these sort of centralized travel aggregators to do that? And that has much less real world kind of impact.
Yeah, I mean, Airbnb is an interesting one there too, right? It's less of a distributed marketplace, but it's I think that would be an interesting one where it's do I have my own agent that I just text with, and I'm hey, I'm going to be out of town this week. Can you just put my house up?
The reason I'm more sort of agentically pilled on hotels is they all already literally have websites with forms upon which you can make reservations, basically, right? Whereas Airbnb has aggregated all this weird supply that's basically only on Airbnb, and
they have reviews, and they have reviews, reputation, responsibility, culpability. I feel like Airbnb is going to be in better position.
I think they will definitely be in better position. Yeah, I think the short case for like Booking and Expedia to me is pretty strong. Whereas like Airbnb has this unique supply, and if they don't open up their unique supply to agents, like they will continue to sort of have that monopoly over their supply. So I'm not saying
in a trustless world, which we're about to enter, brands that maintain trust are going to be more valuable.
Good stuff. That was fun.
All right, I want to talk about one last thing before we end. This is you guys rebranded. Created a new company?
Rebranded, renamed, created a new company, new foundation. Yes.
So you went from Volley to Weekend.
Yes.
Explain yourself.
Weekend.com for the record.
How much are you saying how much you spent on that?
I'm willing to leak it to a friendly journalist. Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately we decided to rename the company because we've always been sort of looking for a name that captured the spirit of what we do, which for listeners who don't have context, we make games that you can play on your smart TV and smart home devices. They're powered by the voice AI stack. So you play them with speech recognition, large language models, speech synthesis. And we have popular games like Jeopardy, where you get to pretend to be on the Jeopardy TV show, buzz in, answer questions, say who is Abraham Lincoln, win money, all that kind of good stuff. We have kids games, like we have an interactive Cocomelon game where your kid can play peekaboo with their favorite Cocomelon characters, among other things. And then finally, sort of interactive storytelling, Dungeons and Dragons. If you ever played a good D&D game, we have an AI dungeon master that runs you through the whole story and is super fun. So we're built around these live multiplayer voice games that are powered by AI. And we just have always been looking for a name that we felt captured the spirit of that sort of joy and family fun time that we think we're creating. And so found a new name, Weekend, and we're able to get the domain, as you mentioned, Eric, weekend.com, and just went through a sort of rebrand relaunch process literally this week. And I think it's gone very well. My tweets are doing well on Twitter, including from random venture capitalists who I'm not friends with. So that was great.
I mean, Eric, you've watched the whole Volley journey to this point from the front row seats in many ways, being friends with us throughout that whole time period. Curious, what's your view of the rebrand?
Yeah, I mean, to me, the story of Volley and now Weekend are sort of three platform technological shifts that you saw. They were like correct in certain ways, and I think we're obviously excited about the first one. You guys were very early on the like chatbot. We're gonna be you're real chatbot builders. Like in what you were in Palo Alto. I always get which one you were in.
Menlo Park.
Menlo Park. You guys insisted being in like a random apartment when everybody was in San Francisco. You're like, no, we need to toil away building. So you did that. Then you successfully built a business with Alexa. I love Yes Sire, which is sort of your own creative game. Song quizzes become very popular. And then of course you have these IP games, like Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, also on Alexa.
Yep.
But then I don't think you can say this, but Amazon didn't quite deliver on having Alexa like eat the world. Like they were pushing it hard. You guys were the most successful games company on Alexa, but then the platform itself has to keep growing. And like I do think there was some, you hit your head on the ceiling in terms of Alexa as a platform, and you've sort of. And I think there was a fundamental human reality that people do love screens in addition to voice when interacting. And so now you have found the TV where you can similarly like strike partnerships, get direct distribution, but there's this device people are using that suddenly thinks AI has the capability to become much more intelligent. So through a strategy of great games, strong partnerships, good IP, and sort of creative ingenuity are about to sort of ride the TV wave. And part of the Weekend position is saying like, man, we're all in on TV. Obviously, we're still excited about Alexa, but the future is really being able to make your TV intelligent. And there's a big business ahead to be built there.
I think that is a better way to put it than I put it. So good work. And I think ultimately, I mean, this is the theme of this entire podcast, but the progress in large language models and just the ability to make interactive voice experiences over the last year and a half has been fundamentally transformed. I mean, you can now talk to AI characters in our games that act like real people or act like real characters. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to like an interactive theater performance, like a Sleep No More type thing, but it's like you can now go wander around these worlds and talk to characters in a sort of fun and interesting way. They can react to you. They can remember things about you. They can quiz you about your hometown and make little jokes and stuff. And I think that we're still in the very early innings of people understanding kind of how fun it can be to sort of role play with AI, right? And I think especially with voice, it becomes this very emotional relationship you have. Whereas when you're texting with a chatbot, there's always that sort of disintermediation of it being, tapping on a phone. And so the whole progress in that field has just been tremendous for us. And we have a lot of new titles we're building towards in that direction. And to your point, I just think Weekend is a much stronger foundation from a naming perspective for what we're trying to build.
You said in the post, it's like, have some fun in AI. Like everybody's,
right.
Obviously Anthropic is succeeding selling to businesses or obsessed. There is like, just sell to businesses and you'll do well in AI. But like let's have some fun with everything that's happening. It feels like all the fun that's happening right now is what, like Elon having people, make like sex bots and stuff. And like, this is a little more, family friendly and wholesome.
Yeah. I mean, just to make like one last point on that. I mean, I think we say we want to be the AI for fun company. Our mission is to use AI for fun, to make people's lives more joyful. And I do think that Silicon Valley is kind of dour, sometimes. It's like very austere place in a lot of ways where it's
all these red-pilled people got so depressed and it became such a dark place after the pandemic.
People don't like, this is such a weird observation, but like people don't laugh very much. Like people don't make jokes very much. Like there's no like self-deprecating comedy really. Like a lot of the funny accounts on Twitter have gone dark. It's sort of like, it's this bizarrely kind of austere and kind of dark place in some ways. And I think that like in my interactions with venture capitalists, you frequently have this like moment where you're like trying to like see if you can ignite like a spark of joy behind someone's eyes and you sort of fail to do so. And you're like, okay, well, this pitch isn't going well. And so my hope is that by putting out this flag that we are trying to be the company that uses AI for fun to make people's lives more fun, that we will attract, whether it's 5 or 10% of the people out there in technology who want to build things that make people happy and joyful.
There's also like a secondary point there, which is the blind spot of Silicon Valley and venture capital on TV specifically, right? Because most on average, Americans spend, 5 hours in front of their TV, and not too many venture capitalists are doing that. That's per day.
Or they don't admit it. They say they're very
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe some of them are watching TV.
I think Mark Andreessen
famously watches a lot of TV.
Oh, really? Yeah. I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, that was in his New Yorker profile that he just like mainlines television. Yeah.
And so I think there's like a bit of blind spot. YouTube just announced that they get more consumption of YouTube on TV than any other device, which is sort of surprising to people in Silicon Valley.
I know the takeoff of YouTube honestly has sort of affirmed your strategy shift to me more than anything. I'm like, oh my, and obviously we're building a show on you. This is my other, I'm trying to build 2 YouTube channels at the moment. So yeah, it's a huge trend obviously in media.
Yeah, so we just think there's an enormous opportunity to create that interactive AI software on TVs.
This podcast, is not usually an infomercial for Weekend, but Max, James, and I, are real friends. We've known each other since college. I've obviously watched them through the dark days of company building, and so as it gets more fun, I'm excited. Whoa, you're all alone. Like, what is this thing?
Totally.
Our friends in consulting are like, what are they doing? They could have normal jobs. It's like, so once you're like getting somewhere, it's like, it's good to celebrate, along the journey and cheering for you guys. And so, but I mean, this is mostly about our friendship and, hosting AI conferences together. But obviously part of the fun is like, I learn things, through talking to people as a journalist, and you guys learn things through sort of actually building a company, and together that creates like a informative show that's not just journalism pilled or founder pilled, but a reality in between. And excited to see you guys keep building the company.
Thanks for your support along the way.
Great.
Yes.
All right.
Long live the Weekend, baby.
We'll see you guys in a fortnight.
Yes.
See you in a fortnight.
Everybody's new to the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe. We could use all your support. Heckle us in the comments. We appreciate it. Give us thoughts on what we should argue about next week and make some predictions of your own. Thank you so much. See ya in 2 weeks.